In 1236, King Henry III spent enough sugar on one royal wedding feast to outpace a knight's entire yearly income. It was locked in vaults next to gold and gems. By 1800, the average English household was going through 18 pounds of it a year, stirred into tea without a second thought. That collapse, from royal treasure to everyday habit, reshaped economies, launched empires, and fueled one of the darkest chapters in human history. But sugar's story doesn't start in a London parlor, and it doesn't start on a plantation either. It starts in a rainforest, on a remote Pacific island, 10,000 years before England ever tasted it, New Guinea. Deep in the tropical lowlands, a tall, thick grass grew wild, nothing special to look at. But the people who lived there snapped off a stalk, bit down, and experienced something no human tongue had ever met in that form. Pure, concentrated sweetness, straight from the earth. Sugarcane. For thousands of years, that's all it was. A treat you chewed. No trade, no processing, no fortune to be made. The cane drifted slowly from island to island, across the Pacific and into Southeast Asia, carried by migrating families over countless generations. Then, around 3500 BC, it reached India. And India didn't just chew it. Indian farmers worked out how to crush the stalks, boil down the juice, and let it harden into rough brown crystals. They called it khanda. Say it out loud, and you can hear where our word candy comes from. For the first time in human history, sweetness could be stored, shipped, sold. India had turned a plant into a product. Their physicians treated it like medicine, prescribing it for headaches, stomach trouble, even matters of the bedroom. To them, this wasn't food. It was something close to sacred. When Alexander the Great's armies pushed into India around 326 BC, his men came home with a story the Greeks could barely believe. A reed that made honey without a single bee. But belief didn't mean access. For the next 1,000 years, sugar stayed a distant rumor in the West. When it finally trickled into Roman pharmacies, a single pound could swallow a laborer's monthly wages. Doctors doled it out in pinches for eye infections. Sugar wasn't dinner, it was a prescription. So, who cracked the code? Not Europe. During the Islamic Golden Age, Arab chemists and traders transformed sugar making into a true science. Between the 7th and 13th centuries, they refined the crystals whiter, finer, purer than anything before. They raised mills across Persia, Egypt, and North Africa, and planted cane wherever the climate allowed. When European crusaders marched into the Middle East in 1096 and got their first taste, they were hooked instantly. Knights hauled sacks of it home, alongside their relics and swords. And one city saw the opportunity of a lifetime: Venice. Perfectly placed between east and west, Venetian merchants bought raw sugar, refined it themselves, and sold it across Europe at eye-watering markups. For roughly 2 centuries, they held the continent's sweet tooth hostage and grew fabulously rich doing it. Because in medieval Europe, sugar was treated like gold, literally. Kings commissioned towering sugar sculptures for their banquets just to flaunt their wealth. English monarchs tracked their sugar stores the way modern nations track gold reserves. Apothecaries kept it locked up beside the opium. If you could afford sugar, you were somebody. If you couldn't, and almost nobody could, you might live your whole life without one taste. But there was a problem no amount of money could fix. Sugarcane demands tropical heat. You can't grow it in England, you can't grow it in France, and Europe's hunger was exploding. Now pay attention to this next part, because this is where sugar stops being a story about food and becomes a story about the making of the modern world. In the 1400s, Portugal began claiming Atlantic islands Madeira, the Canaries, São Tomé off the African coast. Perfect cane country. They built the first European-run plantations, and those plantations needed labor, brutal labor, 18 to 20 hours a day in crushing heat during harvest. They tried convicts, They tried poor Europeans. The work broke them all. So Portugal turned to enslaved Africans. And when Columbus crossed the ocean in 1492, cane cuttings traveled with him on his second voyage. The Caribbean had the climate. Europe had the appetite. What happened next was one of the greatest horrors in human history. Understand what making sugar actually meant. Cut cane rots fast, so workers fed stalks into grinding rollers around the clock, and those rollers didn't care whether they caught cane or a hand. Plantation owners kept a hatchet beside the mill, so a trapped arm could be taken off before the machine took the man. Then came the boiling house. Rows of copper kettles over roaring fires, air above 140 degrees, molten sugar splashing and burning skin day and night. Between the 1500s and the 1800s, roughly 12.5 million enslaved Africans were forced across the Atlantic, and an enormous share of them landed on sugar plantations. On the Caribbean estates, the average enslaved worker survived just 7 years after arrival. 7. The owners had done the math. Replacing a human life cost less than preserving one. Sugar didn't merely profit from slavery. Sugar was the engine that made the entire Atlantic slave trade run. By the 1700s, it out-earned tobacco, cotton, and coffee combined in Atlantic trade, building mansions in London and funding navies and wars. Tiny Barbados alone was worth more to Britain than all of North America. But empires built on chains create something their builders never planned for: resistance. In 1791, on the French sugar colony of Saint-Domingue, hundreds of thousands of enslaved people rose up, burned the plantations, and fought off the armies of France, Spain, and Britain for 12 years. By 1804, they had won. Haiti, the first free black republic in the Western Hemisphere, was born in a cane field. And here's the domino nobody saw coming. Losing Haiti gutted France's colonial income. Napoleon, his sugar empire in ashes, and his ports blockaded by the British Navy, made two desperate moves. First, he sold the Louisiana Territory to the United States for about 4 cents an acre, a sale that doubled the size of America, driven partly by sugar's collapse. Second, he bet everything on a strange discovery by a German chemist. The humble beet contained the very same sweetness as tropical cane. Napoleon ordered tens of thousands of acres planted, and by 1813, France was producing millions of pounds of beet sugar. The tropical monopoly, 10,000 years old, was broken. Cane versus beet. Colony versus farm. The rivalry crashed prices, and by the mid-1800s, sugar was cheaper than at any point in human history. Steam mills, railroads, and modern refining finished the job. Britain married cheap sugar to cheap tea, and sweetened tea became the fuel of the working-class fast calories that kept factory hands moving through 14-hour shifts without a proper meal. Then came Coca-Cola in 1886. Candy bars, sugar-coated cereals. By 1970, the average American was putting away 100 pounds of sugar a year, the weight of a large dog. Every man, woman, and child. And now for the part of this story that should genuinely make you angry. The sugar industry knew. As far back as the 1950s, their own research connected sugar to heart disease. Instead of warning anyone, they buried it. In 1967, industry money quietly paid Harvard scientists to publish a review in one of the world's most prestigious medical journals, a review that pointed the finger at fat instead. For 30 years, the world went low-fat, and food companies stripped fat out and pumped sugar in to keep the flavor. Obesity soared. Diabetes soared. Millions died of the diseases that followed. The truth only surfaced in 2016, when researchers uncovered the industry's internal documents. It was the tobacco playbook, run on your dinner plate. Meanwhile, in the 1970s, a cheap corn-based sweetener, high-fructose corn syrup, quietly replaced cane sugar in nearly every processed American food. most people never notice the switch. Today, the average American swallows about 17 teaspoons of added sugar a day, double to triple what heart doctors recommend, hidden in bread, pasta sauce, salad dressing, and yogurt cups sweeter than candy bars. So, look at your kitchen tonight. That white powder in the jar was once locked in royal vaults. It toppled Napoleon's American dream, doubled the size of the United States, enslaved millions, fueled the Industrial Revolution, and quietly rewrote medical science to protect itself. A wild grass from a New Guinea jungle became the most consequential and the most dangerous crop humanity ever tamed. And it's sitting on your counter right now, waiting to be noticed. If this story changed the way you see that sugar jar, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments which part of sugar's hidden history hit you hardest. Because the next everyday food we're exposing has an even darker secret.